You want the people of Muso, they will come to meet you! And the crack in the earth starts separating, widening, and down from below you hear groans and moans as, clambering toward the surface, you see stop-motion skeletons and zombies advancing on you, jerking slowly, spasmodically, as they approach the surface. Dozens of them.
And I light up, and I look back to my companions, putting on my big white smile, and I say, "Follow me into glorious death," and I charge and I attack.
Perfection. And Miles, what are you intending on doing?
Folks, you've never seen Miles prance before. But this, it may not be the great foe that he wanted, but it does at least have the advantage of numbers. And bellowing a delighted, giddy, joyful war scream, I charge into the fray.
What is your war scream?
It's a good start!
And Ramonas, what is your plan here?
I will back away slightly. Considering the situation, I could do something dramatic, but perhaps the time has come for the action sequence, and so I will make sure I'm safe and just see how my brave companions do first.
Very good. Moral support and all that. Gustav, you are fighting a scaled creature, not in the sense that it has scales on its back, but in the sense that you are dealing with a mob, a group of enemies that are more sizable than you. Mechanically, and this is more for the benefit of the audience than anyone else, when something has scale on you, it means that its stats increase exponentially. They are multiplied from how they would if they were a singular enemy. Just pointing that out for the audience in case you want to know how scale works. But in this case, you are throwing yourself into the fray with these stop-motion skeletons that advance on you with cutlasses and other such small weapons in their hands. Could I ask for you to make a close combat and might roll, please?
Indeed, and I can then use the quip bonus there, right?
Yes, you can.
That's 2 extra dice, right?
Yes, because you've used it before.
5 successes.
Well, in that case, scale be damned. As you cleave through these skeletons as if they were paper, you send them scattering, bones flying in all directions, vaguely aware that up until recently these may well have been innocent people of Muso, but now they are undead constructs, utterly compelled toward death and destruction against you. Still, it ain't no thing, because as you swing your axe, they are scattered to the 4 winds, and you feel another roar of triumph building in your chest.
Yes, and I roar, "Ares, witness me!"
As the skeletons go flying, they are replaced by a horde of zombies, but you will have them to deal with in a moment. Miles, you are charging toward a large skeleton, a many-limbed skeleton at that, slightly different than the others. You're not sure whether it's a leader or just a champion of some kind. But in each of its 4 limbs, it holds a weapon. In one, a swinging flail, in another, a club, in the third, a sword, and in the fourth, a nasty-looking fork.
You are determined to kebab this satyr, aren't you?
Close combat and might, please.
Yes, I duck under its swinging weapons, I grab hold of its wrist, and I use it as a platform to launch both hooves at its midsection.
Beautiful.
Oh, that could have been worse. That's 3.
No, that definitely could have been worse. You scale up it using its bones as if they were crampons in a cliff face. Your fingers stretching through the rib cage, your hooves climbing up it as if it were a ladder, and sure enough, as planned, you drop kick the skeletal beast. It collapses backwards, dropping 2 of its weapons. Its fork disappointingly lands on the ground, as does its club, but it still wields a flail and a sword as it climbs up and chatters at you and runs at you with speed. Gustav. And we will deal with Ramonas in a second. Gustav. While you've cleared these skeletons, these zombies were not far behind, and they start clambering onto you, moaning, groaning, wanting your brains more likely than not, but right now they're not aware of what a small meal that would be. Could you make a athletics and... Actually, are you trying to escape this, or are you just going to take them on?
This would be a glorious way to die. No, I'm going to fight.
Okay, in that case, all I really need is to know your defense, which I do, so you don't need to tell me, and I will roll and see how these creatures do as they invade your personal space in the worst possible way. The horde of zombies is close to dragging you down to the abyss. That wasn't their intention. Originally they were just trying to eat you. But there's so many of them that as you were in the swamp being pulled down, these zombies outweigh you in sheer numbers. And while you can hold up a bracer to catch one in the jaw and prevent it from biting into your skin, others do bite into you. Thankfully, this isn't a horror movie, and so there's no such thing as infection, as we've already ascertained, but bites still hurt, and you currently have the grey, pallid skin of the undead all around you, their rotting teeth, chewing on your fine, fine muscles. They're very taken with it. And Miles, in your case, the skeleton champion is charging at you. Are you going to try dodging out the way, or are you going to take it? Horns versus bones.
I'm going to charge right back at it so we collide in a glorious crescendo of violence.
Almost certainly. Almost certainly. Okay, well in that case I'm going to roll for the skeleton champion as it chatters and clamps its teeth together as it draws in on you. The camera is on the skeleton champion. The camera is on you. You're running toward each other despite all logic dictating that this is a very bad move. And then you meet in the middle as you are fighting back. Could I ask for just a simple might roll, please? See if you hold your ground.
2.
2 successes. You, unfortunately, the skeleton champion doesn't roll terribly well. And so, you do. It smashes into you. And the two of you are locked in a clinch. Its 2 good arms and weapons wrapped around your torso and neck while your horns are jammed up in its collarbone and grill. Neither of you are moving. An unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, or in this case a skeleton champion colliding with an angry, not merry, satyr. Ramonas, you can see the carnage on the battlefield before you. Is there anything you can do?
There is something, although it may be as dangerous as it is helpful, but there is no time to think. I lift my arms in the air and beseech the gods. By the sun and the moon, Poseidon, I beseech thee, bring forth thy cleansing waters. And I would like to, for one rewrite, use Into the Fire to introduce a deadly hazard to the entire scene. In this case, water.
Well, you are close enough to the coast that may be a possibility. All of the tremors, all of the earthquakes, they have left the seabed very unstable. It was only a short amount of time ago that it happened, and now that the water has enough time to retreat, far too much time in realistic terms, but again, fantasy movie, it decides it's going to roar back with a tidal wave. We first see it passing back to the recovering city of Muso, where some of the aristocrats have just arrived back, all scarred and scratched and with their togas either gone or ripped. They're meeting up with the high priest of Apollo to say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake, we should have stayed here all along. It's okay, he's saying. You're safe here, you made the right decision to return to Muso. And then, of course, a shadow descends over his face and over the faces of the aristocrats as they look up. A tidal wave! Oh no, it wasn't the right decision to head back to Muso as the water smashes into them, but it doesn't stop there. It cascades through the swamp, knocking all of the goblins who were having a nice picnic off of their blankets and out of their trees. It rushes forward. Thankfully, listeners, in case you're very concerned about the safety of the children at this point, they decided they would jump onto a cart and go to the nearest town away from all of this. So no children were harmed in the making of this movie. But goblins were, and the tidal wave rushes on, smashing toward Castle Thrax, and normally Castle Thrax is built to withstand such natural hazards, but unfortunately there is a massive great hole in its wall right now from where a giant 3-headed hero recently cleaved its way in. The water rushes in,
I yell out, "Hold on to something!"
And at that, Gustav is being held onto by several zombies. So Ramonis is more advising this for her own benefit. And the water takes advantage of the narrow gap in the walls to form a jet washer of pressure that pours into the castle courtyard, demolishing everything in its path. And unfortunately, there's only one place that water can go. It is forcing everything toward the abyss, the great crevasse that has opened before you. Ramonis, it's very dramatic and suitable that you have used this magical effect at this time. The cinematic at this time. And I thank you for it. But you do need to make an athletics and might roll to grip onto something sturdy enough so that you're not washed away.
Then, just as I attempt to grab something, I will say quietly to myself, "An elegant solution for an ugly problem," I thought. 2 more dice.
It sounds like you need it right now.
1 10, 2 successes.
Okay. In that case, you are able to grab hold of what at one point was the pillar in the forecourt. You hold on to it as the water rushes past you, nearly sweeps your legs out from underneath you. You see your friend, the Amazon, Christabel, rush past. She holds onto your legs. She's gripping there as well. She doesn't want to die. She's already lost so much. But this doesn't mean Gustav and Miles get away from all this trauma. Gustav, are you going to let the waters take you down into the abyss where other dastardly beasts may dwell? Or are you going to fight back against the rushing of the tide?
The tide, now there is a worthy foe. I will fight.
Wonderful. Let's go for an athletics and might roll, please.
3 successes.
Wow, okay. Great stuff. You are able to cling on with your fingers. You bury them in the ground, and with fingertips alone, muscles straining, the zombies wash off of you and down into the abyss as you hold on. But oh no! In your haste to grab hold of the ground, to save your very skin, your axe, your beloved axe, you see it disappear down into the crevasse. You hear it clang and crash and fall.
And I yell out in frustration. But I keep hold. I still have my muscles.
For now. Miles, you are in a clinch with the skeleton champion. You too, if you are trying to hold on, are going to have to go for an athletics and might roll.
Just a question before I make my decision. Could I allow this tide to carry me closer to the sorcerer and then find something to grab onto? Or are they, safely behind a wall?
You don't know where the sorcerer is. You've seen his face in a dark flame above the crevasse. But logic would dictate, as much as it's dictated anything in this movie, that he's probably down there.
I'm going in!
You letting go of the skeleton champion?
I'm letting go of the skeleton, although I'm probably still tangled up, horns to ribs, and I'm going into the abyss.
The two of you, Ramonis and Gustav, can only stare in wonder, in awe, as Miles all but surfs the skeleton champion down into the abyss like some awful scene out of Escape from LA. And down Miles goes, into the great gloom of the abyss. The water doesn't recede so much as run out, as it has filled the crevasse and gurgled away deep into the underworld. Hades may not have been expecting a pressure wash on all of the souls of the dead, but that's what he got, leaving the two of you on the surface. Oh, and Christabel, of course.
We must... Gustav! Christabel! We must... To Miles! Quickly, Miles! Miles! I call out, my voice echoing, of course, into the abyss.
There is no response. You can't see how far down it goes. Maybe a leap of faith would tell you.
Gustav, how can we get down? Gustav! Gustav! Answer me, Gustav! Answer me!
And without saying anything, I just rush forward towards the abyss, and I throw myself in.
Christabel shakes her head. I can't go down there with you. Not like that.
I understand, Christabel. You've truly given us so much already, been of such great assistance, done so many great deeds. You've done enough. Go and rally the survivors. If we come back, all will be saved, and if not, then these lands you must flee.
Gods be with you, Ramonas, the right hand. And then she winces, reminding herself that she doesn't have a right hand, and scowling, stalks off into the background.
And I will close my eyes and say, if it is my fate to die, then I shall die. But if it is not, gods, then perhaps I shall live. And I will jump as well into the abyss.
Our heroes awaken. One can assume that all three are indeed in the underworld now, in the abyss, in the place of the dead, where nothing living dares tread unless it is of foul inclination, or heroic inclination. After all, many a hero has descended into the underworld to retrieve a lost soul, make peace with an enemy, or a loved one that passed before their time. In our case, however, one could argue our heroes' objectives are a little less noble. They're here for glory, and glory may be what they will find. As when they wake in this place of gloom, they find surrounding them mirrors. Mirrors stretching from floor to ceiling, of many different angles, many different widths. This could be a fun house in another era. The way they contort, the way they distort your bodies, your shapes, your souls. You're forced into this strange place of morbid games where you're forced to confront yourselves, look at the worst of yourselves. You are there as a group, and you can all see each other's reflections, but they all look darker than you, or they all look slightly more sinister. And then the reflection of Gustav speaks. You do not deserve to be down here. You have not earned your place in the underworld yet.
You're right.
What truly have you slain to be down here, the Gustav the Wall?
You are right. I am not worthy, not yet. But I will be by the time I get through here.
I found something of yours. The reflection leans slightly out of frame and then back into it. He has 2 axes now, one in each hand, and he throws one to you. It jumps from the mirror and lands in your hands.
I grip it firmly.
Prepare yourself for battle, Gustav. You versus your darkest self. All of your fears, all of your self-loathing, your doubts. Also, your capacity for a vocabulary that you refuse doggedly to use. He steps from the mirror, and yes, it is a reflection of yourself, just as rippling with muscle, but slightly shadowed around every contour. And if you lose, I shall take your place on the surface.
And I smile again, and I say, you will make a worthy sacrifice, as I move to destroy it.
Very nice use of a quip. So we're both going to be going for close combat and might now. As the reflection likewise raises his axe above his head and with a rah brings it down.
I get 3 successes.
3, and he gets 3 as well. Your axes lock, handle on handle, blade against blade, sparks fly, illuminating the abyss around you, as these 2 titans of battle are joined. Ramonas, you are likewise able to see your reflection, who laughs at you, who mocks you. And you call yourself a hero, she says. You call yourself an academic, a surveyor of beasts, and yet always afraid to fight them, always hanging back, always letting your stronger companions fight on your behalf. You are weak. You are flawed. You are not as the gods made you anymore. And I will put you out of your misery, and I will replace you on the surface. Not to record all the beasts of mythology, but to destroy them so no one else may know them. And she steps from the mirror, again a dark, twisted reflection of you.
I frown, I grip my staff, and I say, "Perhaps you speak truth, and yet the gods have favoured me this whole way. If I truly am unworthy of their time, then explain that." And I attempt to strike at this shadow being with my staff.
Well, you both roll the same dice pool, close combat and might, please.
Sadly, no successes.
She strikes you about the head once, twice. She draws blood that you are forced to spit to the side as some of your teeth are knocked loose. It truly is that you have held too many books in your hands when the true hero is more skilled with the stave. Try fighting for your life, for that is what I plan to take. You are left with a heroic scar across your face. Speaking of which, Miles, you have heroic scars already. Make sure in this combat you are adding an additional die to all of your might and combat. Well, so all of your rolls, basically.
Oh, I will.
Your reflection isn't quite as antagonistic as the others. It actually looks frail and timid, and tentatively steps from the mirror frame. I do not want to be here. I do not want to be among these people. I certainly didn't want to sail here, and I do not like being compared to them. They all assume what I am because of of how I appear. But I am just me, and you try too hard to conform. When I replace you, I will go off alone and be my own person, no longer living among humans, frail, weak, pink humans. And he lets out a loud bleat, which to any other creature probably wouldn't sound terribly intimidating, but to you, you know the language of the satyr, and you know it's a cry of desperation and despair. It's a cry you felt inside yourself when you've been forced to interact with these weak mortals. So it's a cry you know well. As he charges headfirst at you, ram horns forward.
You are not my enemy, you are simply my shame. And I'm going to charge in and headbutt him right back.
Good stuff. So add a die. You've got one more than him. Close combat and might, please.
1.
It's equal. Just as Gustav's battle, it's horn versus horn. In this case, you clash, your horns lock, you are pushing against each other. The camera goes down to your hooves, they don't give an inch. Whenever they do slide back, another slides forward in place. The two of you are locked in mortal combat, and it is it is a sight to behold for the viewer. As in this hall of mirrors, you are all reflected in your combats. It isn't as if there is 6 of you. It is as if there are 60 reflected at all angles. These fights going on into eternity in the way only heroic fights can. Gustav, as you lock with Shadow Gustav, he smiles at you. Give in, weakling. Give in. Expose your neck, and I will cut your throat.
And I consider this the ultimate test of my might. And I just push back hard, attempting to subdue this reflection of myself. Surely it cannot be more powerful than I am. No.
Do it again. Close combat and might, please.
Again, 3 successes.
In this case, you are far more successful than your counterpart, as you strike first with the back of your axe and then with the blade. You make him totter, and then you make him bleed, a black ichor, as he stumbles back against the frame of his mirror that he grips tightly with his free hand. You will regret that. This scar across my chest now is more heroic than any wound you bear, and with every wound you deal to me, I will grow stronger.
And I just growl at him, and I look to this mirror. Is he holding it? Is it about as though it is being pushed back into the mirror? Do I think I could push him all the way back in?
Yeah, that would be a good guess. Ramonas, you are facing your reflection. Could you make an Enigmas and Intellect roll, please, as you see out of the corner of your eye, as you try and clear the stars that are whizzing around your head, what happens with Gustav and his reflection?
2 successes.
The mirrors must be the key to this. It may not be simply enough to defeat these creatures in combat. There must be, you have always known, Ramonas the Right Hand, that there is some way of beating every opponent that does not require bloodshed.
This is true, and I struggle to stand. The blood, almost artfully, falling just a little in front of my left eye. And I move quickly to the mirrors, raising my staff, and I say, "Do you not see, Shadow Self, that even the very wise cannot see all ends?" And I will attempt to strike at the mirror itself, using this quip for the second time.
You are indeed. Go for it. Let's go for another close combat and might, please. Because she will attempt to intercept you with the same roll.
1 success.
Oh, she gets in your path. Your quarterstaff does hit her. That's what your success counts for in this case, so it collides with her bones and you hear something break, but she prevents the wood from smashing the mirror's surface, and she glares at you, an evil glare, baring her teeth. You will not send me back there.
Miles! The mirrors! The mirrors, Miles!
Miles, you are currently locked horn on horn with Shadow Miles.
You weak, frail, squalling thing, I will destroy you. I will shatter you as I have shattered every ounce of weakness within me. And I'm going to drive him back into the mirror, please.
Alright, so remember, you've still got that bonus die. We're going to go for close combat and might, please.
That's 5.
As each of your companions struggles with their respective opponent, you do have the advantage over this frail reflection of your own, where they are being beset by, in the case of Gustav, the idea that he has never been strong enough. In the case of Ramonas, the idea that she is physically weak. In your case, your reflection is shame, is frailty. And you are able to push that reflection back through the mirror until only his head and fingertips protrude, the fingertips on the mirror's edge, the face looking through with desperation. And he says, "Don't do this to me, Miles. Save me. You are me."
One last shove.
With the last headbutt, shove, crack, tumbles back through the mirror, and the pain shatters. Shadow Gustav and Shadow Ramonas catch sight of this, and panic flashes across their eyes. Gustav, your reflection says, "It doesn't just have to be me that goes through the mirror. If you go through the mirror, it will be me that is left." And he strikes out at you. What are you trying to do, Gustav?
I'm trying to ensure that he ends up inside the mirror, that I push him in, that he's not able to put me in his place. Okay.
Close combat and might, please. It has now supplanted survival as the skill of the day.
2 successes.
2 successes. Gustav, your reflection fights back. And effectively at that, you are cut across the cheek deeply. And to your alarm, as it exposes the inside of your mouth and your jaw, you find it is bleeding the same black ichor that was emerging from his wounds. "Now I am the true Gustav. I will be the last one." And he tries to swing you into the mirror. Ramonas. You see that Miles has been successful, but Gustav is less lucky. You, however, have your own problems on hand. As Shadow Ramonas tries to jam the quarterstaff into your torso and tilt you up and into the mirror behind her. What are you doing?
All I can do is take a moment to realize that I am outpowered. I cannot fight myself, but perhaps I can think of something. And as it tilts me forwards, can I attempt to position my own 4 legs in such a way that I use the weight of my opponent against her, and maybe I can flip her into the mirror?
I think that is a masterful way of using your character, and I'm going to say use academics and might.
2 10s, 4 successes.
You do so. Your maneuver is enough to set her off her game. As she tries to tilt you, you instead jam all 4 legs into the mirror's edge, and she falls backwards until only her legs remain on this side. Those spider legs you know so well, these clockwork legs that you helped build, they lay there just as you have lain there those times when you have been toppled and found it so difficult to get up again. A streak of pity passes through you, but you know what must be done. Do you break the mirror or push her through?
I say, I am sorry, myself, and push her through.
And the mirror breaks as she disappears. Miles, you see Gustav is locked in mortal combat. Are you going to help? Or do you feel this is Gustav's battle to fight?
I would never dream of coming between Gustav and a worthy opponent. But what I will do is stamp my hooves on the ground and proclaim, there is only one true warrior in this room. Gustav, I haven't known you long, but I know you well. You can defeat this failure of a person. I don't know if there's any kind of help action, but, moral support.
Yeah, there is indeed. I haven't marked it on your sheets, but there are relationship bonuses. What that means, Gustav, you can gain 2 dice in this case because of your strength of your relationship with Miles. And on top of that, you get an additional die for having a scar, a heroic battle scar. So if you are going to be successful, now is the round to do it. Otherwise, this may be the time where Gustav the Wall is lost.
And I just howl and scream, and I push, and I put all my might into this one attempt at turning the tide and pushing my shadow back in its place.
Okay, give me a close combat and might, please. If there is a quip you want to use, now is the time.
I said, you will make a worthy sacrifice! And I get 3 10s.
Okay. It's fair to say that you were successful. You narrate, Gustav. You can narrate how exactly you handle your reflection.
I push so hard, I pull, I almost rip my shadow's arm off, and I just put all my strength behind it and just push it right back into the mirror and attempt to avoid falling into it myself. That is how much power I'm putting into it. But I hope it will be enough to finally put this shadow where it belongs.
It is. With a desperate cry, a scream of agony and loss, Shadow Gustav disappears into the mirror and the shards shatter to the floor, leaving 3 empty frames where your reflections once emerged. The shadows disappear, the gloom dissipates, the mirror edges themselves disappear into wisps of mist, leaving you in a cavernous chamber filled with obelisks to which a variety of people, you assume some of them citizens of Muso, are strapped. A very dejected, irritated looking Darangel, the sorcerer, sits on a throne of bones, drumming his fingers on one of the arms, very disappointedly. So, you made it this far, hmm? Consider you that I may have constructed this epic and unwieldy plan to draw to my domain 3 of the strongest, wisest heroes, so that I might turn them to my side with magic. Think you that you might ascend the way you descended? You think there is escape from this place? Think you that I am defenseless down here in the depths of the earth? I am the left hand of Hades. I am the sorcerer of sorcerers. I am the Duke of Darkness. He stands up. Will destroy all 3 of you! Lightning crackles in his hands, reminiscent of a previous movie by the same director. Only this villain isn't extolling the virtues of electric power. Instead, this villain is extolling the virtues of his own personal dark grace. You are all injured, you're all beaten up, you are all weakened by the scenes before now.
I arch my head back, first in pain as the electricity covers all 3 of our bodies, and we, for a moment, almost glow in the dark, our skeletons on show in amazing Technicolor special effects. And then I look up to the sky and I say, "Tell me, mighty gods, if this is our end, if this is the tale you would weave, then die now we shall. But Zeus, if this is not the end, if this is not the tale of Hades, your brother's triumph, if it is actually a tale of your triumph, then I beg you one last time, lend us your aid, mighty gods, and finish this tale as fits a saga worthy of the pantheons of Olympus themselves." And I lift my arms, my eyes glaze over white, my hair turns white, and I believe it's 3 rewrites, but if I'm a sage, perhaps it's only 2.
Which is just as well, because that's all you have.
To call upon divine aid, a cinematic that allows me to beseech the gods and perhaps acquire their aid at a time of great need.
Indeed, the magical effect of divine intervention very much is a deus ex machina, but is the kind of thing that is used in movies such as this. It is a special move, likely saved for an apt conclusion. And it is just as well that you had 2 rewrites left in your pool, and that you, a sage, are using this magical effect that you had.
And of course, as I do it, I grasp the hands of Gustav and Miles. For I need them. I need them!
You do. And as Darangel continues proclaiming his glory, I am the Master of Dusk. I am the Lord of the Abyss. I am... There is sudden breakage of earth above your heads. And you hear booming above you, "Nothing!" And a hand reaches down and grabs the left hand of Hades and pulls him up. Ah! At which point he gets thrown into the Cyclops' mouth. Nothing! The answer is nothing! That's right, isn't it? The electricity dissipates. Well?
I let out a gasp and dramatically fall, for the moment at least, into the side of Gustav, fully exhausted. But I say very quietly to Gustav, "Yes, that was the answer."
Well, I suppose that's the deal, isn't it? I got it right, so I ate one of you, this chewy fella. Well, alright. And the Cyclops stomps off back to the swamp, leaving the 3 of you harrowed but alive in the depths of the abyss. And indeed, as you recover yourselves, you are able to find Duke McMorrow down here. Unlike in Classified, McMorrow did not die. However, he is a shadow of his former self. He promises you riches, but there is no ascent from this place. In that respect, our angel was telling the truth. You can only head deeper underground and maybe find a way out of the abyss that way. In a sequel, perhaps, to the Chronicles of the Abyss. But until then, our heroes must enter the darkness and the great unknown of Hades' kingdom. And maybe, if this movie does well enough, we will see what happens in Part 2.
I will give a parting line to Miles, my hair now forever white, of course, and a scar upon my brow, and say, "Dear Miles, did we prove ourselves worthy?"
Not yet, Romanus. Not until we punch death itself in the face.
And I nod, and I look to Gustav.
And I weigh my axe in my hands, and I just nod and say, "We will do just that."
Freeze frame, credits roll, the movie closes. And I thank you very much, everybody, who participated. Matthias, Kat, Craig. I thank you very much, everybody who listened to this epic saga of They Came from the Cyclops' Cave. And as mentioned earlier, I beseech you, if you are interested in this game, a game where fantasy is fun and can span everything from swords and sandals to sword and sorcery and other such things involving swords, do check out our They Came From double feature Kickstarter with the Cyclops' Cave and Classified. You can back one, you can back both. And do tell others about it. We are very proud of this game, these games, and we would love it if more people gave them a look. So check them out and have fun with them. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to the next time.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we played the scenario Chronicles of the Abyss for They Came from the Cyclops' Cave. We are again joined by our dear friends Matthew Dawkins and Kat Evans for this series. The music was made by Egger Sonis and Halgrath and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon: Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Ludwig Manford, Bob Lange, Julián, Cameron, Xabier, Daniel, and Antxon for their generous support. And we'd of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember to ask yourself, what is best in life?